Hi, Dr. Shmaila here, physiotherapist and your mentor. Today we'll start with chapter number 3, that is an introduction to exercise therapy. We'll start with first of all, always remember that you have to focus on definitions, most important part from all aspects, from Viva point of view and from the paper point of view too. So start with exercise therapy. Exercise therapy is basically a means of accelerating the patient's recovery from injuries and diseases which have altered his way of living. It speed up the patient recovery. Exercise mean therapy means you are basically you have to perform some rehabilitation measures for accelerating the patient's speedy recovery that is affected by injuries and disease. So, the process of recovery is delayed by inactivity and the muscle weakness which results from it. The repeated use of alternative patterns of activities make it difficult to correct them when they are no longer needed. For example, limping after leg injuries. Although these alternative patterns may serve a useful purpose temporarily, they must not be allowed to become established as they are less efficient than the normal patterns unless a return to the normal function is known to be impossible. When they know when they're left no way, then we use these measure. Otherwise, you always prevent these alternative patterns. What are our aims of exercise therapy? Aim of treatment by exercise are to promote activity whenever and wherever it is possible to minimize the effect of inactivity, to correct inefficiency of a specific muscle or muscle groups and regain normal range of joint movement without delay to achieve efficient functional movement, and to encourage the patient to use the ability he has regained in the performance of the normal functional activities and so accelerate his rehabilitation. These are the three aims. What are the techniques of exercise? Basically, movements used in the treatment may be classified as follows: active movement and passive movement. Active movement further divided into two: voluntary movement and involuntary. And voluntary movement further divided into four: assisted exercises, free exercises are movement, and assisted resisted, and then resisted exercises. Involuntary reflex basically. And passive movement, relaxed passive movements, including accessory movements and passive manual mobilization techniques. We discuss all these techniques for in coming chapters. Assessment of the patient condition. Detailed assessment of the patient condition is made before treatment starts so that the physiotherapist is in a position to plan it in accordance with the doctor's orders and needs of the patient. Tests carried out to discover the patient needs, abilities, and disabilities are recorded on charts designed for the purpose as a guide to the selection of the suitable techniques and a mean of estimating progress. The same charts and method of testing are used on subsequent occasions, preferably by the same physiotherapist. Basically, a series of tests provide the answers to the following question: what does the patient need to do? Basically, in this case, cooperation of the patient, all those who come in daily contact with him, is required to discover his need for activity. Those which are most urgent are given priority in the treatment. What can the patient do? The patient abilities provide a mean of correcting and compensating for his loss of function. Strong muscle can be used to reinforce the action of the weaker ones and to gain initiation of the contraction of the muscles which would otherwise remain inactive. As there is a tendency for the patient to concentrate on their inabilities and to be frustrated by unsuccessful attempts to overcome them, it is important that their attention is drawn to the things they can do and to realize that these can be used to restore functions them elsewhere. What is the patient unable to do. A series of tests for muscular efficiency and joint range with observation of the movements and reactions reveal the extent, nature, and position of the deficiencies causing loss or impairment of the function. So, we can assess the patient condition by following these questions. Now, some methods of testing. What are the some methods of testing? First of all, functional test. Basically, functional test, as name is showing that functional testing. Functional testing means that ADL's activities of daily living. Basically, these are used to assess the patient needs and abilities with regard to the functional activities. For example, mobility, in bed transfers, ambulation, gait, etc. Personal care, for example, eating, dressing, and washing, etc. Household or garden jobs like cooking, washing up, sweeping, lifting, etc. Work and recreation. They are carried out in the patient normal environment and in circumstances which are as nearly like it as possible. His performance is regarded as skilled, adequate, requiring assistance, um, standby, minimal, maximal, or total failure. The physiotherapist and occupational therapist cooperate fully in making these tests, which provide valuable means of deciding priorities in treatment and estimating their progress. Second number is joint range. Joint range is measured by goniometry. Measurement of the limitation of joint range present many difficulties. In practice, a suitable position is selected for the patient so that he is stable to make sure that any structure which would limit the normal range of movement are relaxed. For example, calf muscle must be relaxed by flexing the knee to measure full range of ankle movement. The bone proximal to the joint in which range to be measured is fixed and the movement in the joint accomplished in a particular plane. An angle measure, or we can say goniometer, is used with the pivot over the joint in question and one arm in alignment with the proximal bone, other is in line with the area which is moved. The degree of angulation is then read off on a scale, that is goniometer, and recorded as degrees of free movement. It is often less confusing to record the number of degrees that the joint lacks in a particular direction. For example, if we record in this way, we can say that knee extension lacks 30 degree of the normal range. As the normal range of movement varies considerably in individuals, we can say contralateral joint should always be measured first when possible to make the difference, to feel to check the difference. When an angle measure is unsuitable, then an extensible tape measure may be used to measure the distance between two bony points to provide a means of assessing an increase or decrease in the range of movement. Number 3. Test for neuromuscular efficiency. There are many tests to check the neuromuscular efficiency. These may be carried out electrically, manually, mechanically. Electrical tests, these can be carried out by the doctor with the use of electromyograph EMG or by means of the strangulation curves. The conduction studies are to use. They are particularly valuable for diagnostic purposes. Manual muscle testing. To be accurate and efficient manual muscle testing required a standardized technique and considerable experience. So, when in the case of manual muscle testing, it is written here your book name, the techniques of manual examination by Daniels and Worthington, that is most commonly used, and manual muscle testing requires much practice by the hand of students. The classification of the findings at examination, however, usually recorded according to the Oxford classification on a scale 0 to 5. Remember this scale. All manual muscle testing based on this scale. No, look at here. Grade 0, no muscle contraction. Grade 1, flicker of contraction. And to say when the patient is able to move but he cannot move the limb but try to move, and so you can feel flicker of contraction. Grade 2, weak, small movement with gravity counterbalanced. Grade 3, fair and movement against gravity, tolerate no resistance. Grade 4, good, movement against gravity and moderate to maximum, some moderate resistance. And grade 5, we can say it is normal, full range of motion, movement against gravity and maximum resistance. Then there is circumference measurement. This test relies on the fact that there is a relationship between the development of power and that of the hypertrophy. A tape measure, basically made from some inextensible material, is used to measure the circumference of the limb at a predetermined level. Experiments on the normal limbs indicate that this method is unreliable even in experienced hand, although it is, we can say, it is still used. Static power test. The power of static or isometric contraction may be recorded by means of the spring balance, capable of registering up to 50 or 100 lbs. As you know, static muscles, static mean isometrics. The extensibility of the spring within this type of the balance is virtually negligible, and it can be arranged in such a way that contraction of the muscle group can take place at any predetermined point within its range. Record can be made of the maximum poundage recorded or of the average poundage recorded as a result of the three efforts made at one time in 1 minute interval. In some instances, however, such as of gripping with the hand, compression of the spring, or of a rubber sphere to which a suitable partial recording device is attached may prove convenient. Because why extensibility of the spring in this balance, in this type of balance, is virtually negligible, because we can say muscle contraction of the muscle group can take place at a predetermined point, and because there is no change in length of the muscle contract, but it contracts always isometrically. No. Dynamic power test. This is a method devised by Delorme and Watkins as a basis for progressive resistance exercise. Maximum weight which can be lifted once only through a prescribed range is called the 1 repetition maximum, and the maximum weight which can be lifted 10 times at natural speed without test between lifts is the 10 repetition maximum. No, look at endurance test. Endurance may be calculated by recording the drop in the maximum power of the muscles when their effort of contraction is repeated at a given interval for a specific period of time. You can say endurance test is basically we use for to check the stamina of the patient. Speed test. The successful performance of the functional activities can be timed by the use of a stopwatch. For example, time taken to dress or walk a measure distance. So, fourth number test for coordination. Coordination of movement, a lack of it is observed in the patient gait, his performance of purposeful movement, or during specific movements such as bringing the finger to the tip of the nose or moving the heel up and down along the opposite shin bone. These are all coordination movements. And test for sensation. We also test the sensation like touch, um, uh, pain by pinprick, or by uh, touching. These are further discussed in detail in coming lectures. Measurement of vital capacity and range of motion exercise. Range of motion, respiratory exertions. Basically, a spirometer is used to measure the vital capacity. The patient in spirometry, patient is instructed to breathe in as much as possible and then breathe out through the mouthpiece of the spirometer, which registers the volume in cubic centimeters. Spirometer is basically equipment, and that is used to measure the vital capacity. And what is vital capacity? Vital capacity is basically the patient is instructed to breathe in as much as possible and then breathe out through the mouthpiece of the spirometer. Measurement of the leg length. Two ways to measure the leg length. Basically there are two shortenings: true shortening and apparent shortening. Then true shortening of the leg is measured from the anterior iliac spine or upper margin of the greater trochanter to the lateral malleolus, and the apparent shortening from the umbilicus or xiphi sternum to the level of the knee joint or the tip of the medial malleolus. So there, these are the two ways, and these are most important from paper point of view to and viva point of view. Measurement of the angle of pelvic inclination. Basically, pelvic inclinometer is used to measure the anterior and posterior inclination of the pelvis. This is all end of the chapter number 3. Hopefully you like it. Thank you.